I want to talk a little bit about how to get a pay rise. So if you're working in an organization, what's the easiest way to pump up your salary? So the first thing is be really conscious of the business that you're working in. So many people think that their employers are making more money from their business than they actually are. And that can be really, really frustrating for employers. Whereas the consciousness of employees in terms of knowing the business as a whole is actually something that you really, really appreciate from an employer's perspective. So if you're in an organization, take time to actually understand the organization as a whole, where it makes its money, where it loses money, where the real costs are, and where the real opportunities for growth are. So my massive advice would be, if you're doing a job and you've been doing the same job, regardless of how long you're there for, I don't think that's the best way to push for a salary increase. So for example's sake, boss, I've been working here for a year, I've been doing this job, it's been a year, can I increase my wage? I think it's a really weak position to negotiate from, and so don't do that. Now, there is one thing that if you're doing a set job, say for example's sake, you're doing content or you're doing processing, and you can prove to your boss and say, look, I've been in here a year. When I started, it took me 2 hours to do this work. Now I can do that same piece of work in half an hour. Effectively, I've increased productivity fourfold, but my rate has stayed the exact same. That's grounds for negotiating a salary increase, and that's a really good angle to come in. But the very best angle that I'd be suggesting anyone to come in is to look at the organization they're in and be a bit enterprising. Look, for example's sake, at where there is an opportunity to cut costs. So there is no one better positioned in an organization than those in the organization to see where perhaps savings can be made. And if you can talk to your boss and say, look, I've taken a bit of time to examine the business, I think there's an opportunity to cut this cost, to perhaps cut it by 50%. And over the course of the year, that's going to save this business $25,000. I can actually oversee its implementation, or hell, if you're just recommending it. Asking for, look, if you do this, can I take 20% of the savings? I think that's completely fine. Again, bosses are going to want enterprising teams and people within the organization that are going to look for areas of improvement, areas of saving. So that's something that I think is a really, really good way to make money quick within an organization where nobody actually strikes issue. And in actual fact, people are going to appreciate you all the more for it. The other, though, is looking for opportunities for growth. So again, when you're positioned within an organization, no one is better positioned to spot those opportunities where perhaps you can develop the business. And so looking at an idea and knowing the scope of the business as a whole, and being able to look into that idea and to be able to see, okay, do you know what? The business could very easily diversify into this space or expand into this space. Here's what would be needed to do that in terms of resources, and here's the potential gain. And if you can sit down with your employer and present that to them, and for example's sake, be able to present, look, if we do this, it'll cost the business $25,000 over the course of the year, but the opportunity is perhaps 250 grand in revenue, giving a net profit of about 225,000. I think you're in a really nice position to say, look, perhaps I might expand into running this, or hell, perhaps you might, but I'd love to take a cut from that. Again, I think that's an opportunity that an employer can't really turn down, and actually they'll appreciate you all the more. Again, reaffirming that employers want teams that don't just do what they're doing, but they actually look beyond what it is that they're doing, and they look for opportunities of improving the business, whether that's cost saving or diversifying and expanding. And so for me, I would really encourage anybody that's looking for a pay increase within an organization not to do what everybody else does and say, look, I've been working here for a year, I think my work is really good, and because I've shown loyalty for a year, I think my salary should increase. No, don't do that. It's weak, it's soft. Coming on the first argument that I presented saying, look, when I first started, I was doing this much work in this much time. Now I've increased productivity fourfold. On that basis, I'm looking for an increase because hell, I'm doing 4 times as much work for the same rate. That's something, or else, as I said, spotting opportunities for cost saving, or else again, spotting opportunities for growth. Those are the key ways to increase your salary, and that's where you can increase your salary 2-fold, 3-fold within a year. People do it, why shouldn't you?